You know the difference between a graveyard and a cemetery?
Anyway, welcome back to state-sponsored conspiracy podcast. This is the only conspiracy podcast that's officially funded by the U.S. government.
For now.
For now. My code name for this episode, for my own safety, will be Aura Blaze. The reason for this will become clear later. And your code name will be Sauron.
Can I be Tethys?
No, you cannot. The reason for this will be clear soon.
Alright, I'll be Sauron Tethys.
It is time to talk about Saturn. Tell me what you know about Saturn.
Third planet from the sun. It's got a bunch of rings. It's got a big hole in it. It's like a big red storm. It's a barren, icy rock. It's got a bunch of underground water. Am I close?
Some of that was true, some of it is not. That's actually a good preparation for discussing Saturn conspiracies.
I think I described multiple planets there, so...
You did. Space doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Space is hard.
I've had enough of space after this episode. But the poles of Saturn are the place to start. The pole of Saturn, the North Pole, is a hexagon. A perfect hexagon. And that is what got me into looking into Saturn in the first place. It's very mysterious looking. You can go look this up and see for yourself that it is genuinely odd looking. Now, there's some sort of explanation for this with like liquid hydraulic physics or whatever. I couldn't be bothered to look up the real explanation because it's not interesting.
Yeah.
That's not what we're here to talk about.
Well, aren't we supposed to be sort of disinfo? Isn't there some sort of secret government reason why Saturn is the way it is, and aren't we supposed to be sort of disseminating that?
We're trying to muddy the waters, and by making fun of the Saturn conspiracies, people will laugh and they won't take them seriously. That's how we're spreading disinfo here.
Oh, I see.
So obviously it's so weird that it's a hexagon that people have come up with various theories as to why it is a hexagon.
A hexagon is a six-sided shape for you globe heads out there.
So the fact that it is a shape has created a couple different ideas. One, this is the big one. It's a portal. It is a portal to something. It could also be a fueling station. Saturn is full of gas that aliens could use to fill up their spaceships and fly onward.
You know, our gas stations are usually rectangular. So I guess, on Saturn, them being hexagonal makes sense.
Correct. It does, in a way.
Because it's alien.
It could be a observation station. It's even shaped like an eye, because Saturn has the ring and it's the circle in the middle. It is sort of the all-seeing eye, like in Lord of the Rings, like Sauron.
Like Gandalf.
That's why that's your code name. This could be where the aliens watch us from, which I think would be I think that is what happens in like 2010 A Space Odyssey, the critically panned sequel to 2001 A Space Odyssey that is not directed by Stanley Kubrick.
That's not real.
Also, I have not seen that. It is 100% real. I have not seen it. Nobody has seen it, but it's absolutely a real movie. I began my research into this hexagon situation at a website where a guy called Nuclear Rambo shares his conspiracy knowledge. And I'm going to read a few quotes from him that will shed more light on this situation.
He sounds reliable, so...
Scientists have discovered Saturn's second ring is about 7,000 times larger than Saturn itself, 6 million miles wide, and starts 6 million miles away from the planet. If 6 million miles wide, 6 million miles away from the planet, 6-point hexagon storm at the North Pole isn't shady enough, there have been many conspiracy theories based on Saturn's North Pole hexagon storm, the one about the Anunnaki myth being the most widespread. So his grammar is not great, And all of this information is wrong. The measurements and those are all wrong. But he's introducing an important topic here, which is the Anunnaki. Now, what do you know about the Anunnaki?
Only as much as the classified documents tell me, so basically everything. But why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners about it?
Right, for the listeners, the Anunnaki are supposedly the ancient aliens that built the pyramids and messed with people's DNA, and they, made humans as slaves, and they were messing around, and it was like the X-Files.
They were cool guys.
But then they left at some point. Now, they could have set this hexagon up on Saturn before they left to observe us or whatever. So the Anunnaki are very involved in this. He goes on to say, quote, "It is also believed Anunnaki was using a lot of black magic. Most compelling evidence was the creation of Saturn's North Pole hexagon, the destruction of Mars through massive wars, using advanced weapons of destruction, or Moon's creation." Now this references a completely separate idea, which is that there was once an advanced society on Mars that was destroyed. He kind of throws that in, assuming that if you're the sort of person who's reading from a website called Nuclear Rambo, you probably already know about the destruction of Mars.
Now my question is, why would advanced civilizations and aliens, such as the Anunnaki or the civilization on Mars, why would they have the need for magic?
Well, that's a good question. Maybe it's kind of like Adventure Time, where there's magic and there's like real magic and technology that coexist.
That's fun.
Yeah, like the Mars guy in Adventure Time with like the hat.
The Magic Man Wizard, yeah.
Yeah, this is basically saying Magic Man was real. And this is the last this is the last thing I'll read from this guy.
Any info about the civilization on Mars? Or is that just a one-off conspiracy that he just threw out there?
He does not discuss Mars further, and neither will we, because we're sticking with Saturn for today.
And as you said earlier, this is our last space episode ever, despite being the third episode ever.
Yeah, because I hate space. He goes on, quote, "Saturn North Pole hexagon storm is resembling a hexagram, a symbol used in Hanafism, hexagram Judaism, Hinduism, and occultism, and also of Freemasons.
And also just a regular shape.
In fact, can even be some sort of control spell cast in ancient times that lasts to our days still. In addition, it is believed 6 pillars were created artificially binding the storm to not go rogue, pushing the magnetic force into staying completely still but rotating. The storm in the middle is a gate to other worlds, or rather, gates of hell may be worth mentioning." So he a lot of stuff getting dropped here. The occult, the Masons, that's more stuff we're gonna talk about slightly later. But this is introducing a lot of very important Saturn concepts. And then the last thing he says that I enjoyed: "Take our moon as an example. Probably a lot of people realize there is something wrong with how it rotates, including dark sides not exposed to us." So this, I think, is a good window into the mind of Nuclear Rambo, where you can look at the moon and just instinctively think something must be wrong here. The moon is connected. The moon is actually like the key to all this.
Our moon is the key to Saturn?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a lot like it's a lot like Gurren Lagann, where like the moon becomes like really important as you go on. Do you think anyone listening to this has seen Gurren Lagann?
No, I only watched half of it.
Oh my. Okay, we can't talk about pop culture. Our boss is gonna get pissed. We cannot discuss anime. Nobody watching this has seen any anime. It's all refugees from the previous podcast.
I don't think our boss is gonna care. He's been missing for a week.
Which is concerning in its own way, but I'm gonna continue. There is concrete, spooky things that have come from Saturn. What I'm going to play for you right now was record. This is on the NASA website, so this is like real. It's literally there's a page on like the NASA.gov website. It says spooky sounds from Saturn. So when even NASA is saying something is spooky, something is up. So basically, they recorded these like radio signals. It's just like background, electromagnetic signals coming from Saturn. And I'm just gonna play it into the mic so you can hear it. And later, one of our many interns can edit it so the listeners can hear a high quality version.
That sounded like my plumbing.
Are you telling me you don't think that sounds like an alien?
Well, I mean, if NASA says it does, then sure. But
come on, you telling me that's not spooking you?
I mean, that just sounds like a cardiogram.
Well, basically, this is, people think this is aliens.
All right. Well, I mean, until our boss tells us it's aliens, it's not.
Well, I can't even blame them.
It may just be, space.
Well, yes, but I think it's so like spooky and like Twilight Zone sounding. I really can't even blame conspiracy people for just assuming it's aliens. But there are Saturn conspiracies that go beyond just the hexagons. And I enjoy the hexagons, but there is other stuff going on here. There is the idea, and this is big. This is really big.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're like, pay attention if you're listening to this. There is the idea of Saturn as the second sun. So ye olden astronomers, and by ye olden I don't mean like the 50s. I mean like
Plato, Socrates,
mm-hmm.
Diogenes, Kanye.
The whole gang, the whole gang, like antiquity. People did sometimes mistake Saturn for a star because it appears very bright in the sky, and so they thought it was a star sometimes. Now, this is how you get a lot of conspiracies. Like this is basically how Graham Hancock comes up with all of his ideas. He basically sees something like that. He says like, "Oh, they thought it was a star." Well, what if they weren't wrong? What if they were actually right? Looking through their like ancient telescopes that were basically like a mirror taped to a rock. What if they were right and it was a second sun? And Earth, like Tatooine, used to have 2 suns, meaning we'd have no winter, and the whole planet would be a tropical paradise like the Garden of Eden, and anything could be grown anywhere. Everyone would just be chilling, having a great time.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't suns that kind of burn out become not really gas giants with rings? Don't they usually become like big danger spots?
I don't know. I thought this is what a supernova was. But again, it doesn't matter because now we're just talking about actual astronomy, which could not be more boring. The only interesting thing about space is what crazy people have to say about space on the internet.
Okay. Well, as somebody who did pay attention at least a little bit back in biology class, yeah, when stars burn out, they don't become planets. You need to get away from a sun if it burns out because it goes nutty.
Right, I do remember that.
It'll kill you and everything around it.
But for whatever reason, that didn't happen to Saturn, and it just turned into something else. And also, it went much further away. Like it used to be like right up close, hanging out with us for whatever reason. But then it bailed. The point is that this was the original sun of ancient times, and this idea of like sun Saturn and like Saturn being on a different orbit and stuff, A lot of this comes from a 1950 New York Times best-selling book that is called Worlds in Collision, that was written by a guy named Immanuel Velikovsky. And this was a mainstream book. It was in the top 10 bestsellers for 6 months straight. So apparently, like, boomers were really into this book. This was essentially the boomer Graham Hancock.
To be fair, to get on the New York Times bestseller list, all you have to do is actually write the book, because they have so many categories and genres of books available that basically anything you write is going to end up as a New York Times bestseller if you can manage to finagle it into the correct category.
You know, I have wondered that. Like, why does it seem like every single book is the New York Times bestseller?
Because if you write a book about a cat that skateboards, it's going to end up in the genre of cats that skateboard. And guess what? There's no other books about cats that skateboard, so you're going to be the best-selling cats that skateboards book ever.
So this was like the number one book about like Saturn for 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense until eventually, like, Graham Hancock wrote, like, Saturn 2, like, Tokyo Drift, and it bumped him off.
Yeah.
Well, basically, this guy said Saturn and Jupiter both used to be suns, and they were flying around, and then they crashed into each other on accident, like idiots. And this caused so much gravitational happening that it triggered the biblical flood, which pretty much every culture mentions in some way or another. But that flood was directly caused by Saturn. Now, this is a little boring for modern conspiracy people. You know, just Saturn caused the flood. So modern Saturn theorists have combined a couple of these theories into the idea that the Anunnaki were here on Earth, and then the reason they left is because they used their advanced technological knowledge, their knowledge of Saturn, to predict that the flood was going to come, and so they all bailed on us and went back to Planet X, or like Iribu, or whatever, wherever they're supposed to be from, and the people, you know, had to take a swim.
You know, that whole thing is so easy to pick apart. First of all, two suns colliding into each other is going to cause a little bit more than a flood on a little old planet. Second of all, if the Anunnaki were masters of black magic and masters of technology, I'm pretty sure that would not bother them if the planet was going to flood. They could just fly, you know? Maybe just wait it out. It doesn't make sense.
These are good questions you're asking here.
These aren't questions. These are statements about how dumb these theories are.
These are good statements you're making here. But we're gonna move on, because there's another good book to discuss.
The Bible, the goodest book.
Tomorrow's Easter.
Happy Easter, Xbox.
I'm thinking of another book, Xbox. The 1986 book Ringmakers of Saturn, which was written by Norman Bergrun, who really did used to work at NASA. So that's how this book even exists and is taken seriously. Not that conspiracy people are like people who need to see credentials, but the fact that he worked at NASA is like why he was a thing for a while.
What was his position at NASA though?
I can't remember exactly what it was, but he had a legitimate, science related job. He wasn't like the janitor cleaning up the ticker tape after they celebrate the moon landing or whatever.
He wasn't the custodial engineer.
Yeah. He was some sort of real guy. And basically what he says in this book is that the rings of Saturn are full of UFOs. There's tons of UFOs in there. They're just hanging out in the rings. And basically the book is basically pictures of the rings of Saturn, and you can see little dots, and then there's arrows to the dots, and it says these are UFOs. That's basically the that's basically the proof that he's bringing to the table. And then I listened to an interview with him, and he said that, at NASA they have these pictures that show some of these UFOs from Saturn like landing, and he said that 7-foot tall black people came out. And not like NBA players, but like pitch black people who are really tall came out. Kind of like what's the thing from Minecraft?
Enderman.
The Enderman. Basically, the Endermen are like piloting these things, and they come out. And he says all of this with like a completely straight face.
It's serious stuff.
It is. Like, he's taking this very seriously. He's very old in this interview, so maybe his mind is adrift or something, and he's not quite as mentally sharp as he was when he was working at NASA. But this is someone who's big in the Saturn world. I will now hit you with some questions from a different article about Saturn that I read.
You're gonna hit me with questions.
Yeah.
All right, pop quiz.
I'm getting these questions directly from an important article about Saturn. I believe the website was called in5d.com.
That's probably red text on a black background, so you know it's reliable.
The layout of the website was wild.
I don't know why these people don't get some sort of graphic designer on board to make it not look crazy.
Honestly, that could really help conspiracy people in general. Just hiring a graphic designer.
They need to like their Twitter account that is just random letters and numbers needs to stop like replying to NASA posts with like extremely weird like grammarless posts asking about CGI and the Anunnaki, and yeah, it's just gotta stop.
If they stopped doing that and just hired a graphic designer, I think they could get something done. But I think like the people who are like making websites about Saturn are like the people who like they do everything at once. Like they made the whole website in one night, just blasting through it all nonstop in like a haze. Like I don't think these people are like carefully planning things out and like talking to other people. They're just like sitting there like frantically typing for 5 hours.
I mean, even a free website builder makes it look more comprehensible than that.
It's true, but they're all so bad. Like I have not seen one of these websites.
Maybe they all share one graphic designer whose style is that, There's
someone who's just the conspiracy website guy.
Yeah.
It's like a conscious choice. Like they want to make it look like this.
Oh, you know what? Maybe he works with us. Maybe he works with the government to make it look, them look like the crazy. Oh no.
We could have just blown this guy's cover. We could have just burned this guy. All right, we got to move on from this then. I'm going to ask you these questions. Why do we look forward to the weekend when we are weekend?
Because Saturday Saturns us on.
You're already on the right track.
Yep.
Here's the next question.
Yep.
Why does the word Saturday mean Saturn's Day?
Because Saturnalia is the festival of the god Saturn, which is something.
You're already on the right track.
Yeah.
Why do we exchange rings? Rings when we marry?
You know what? I have no idea. I couldn't even venture a guess on that one.
Is it possible that the reality we experience has been hijacked by creator gods who keep us living in subservience, control, and conformity?
Yeah, probably.
Why is there so much Saturn symbolism in religion and in the corporate world?
Well, that's because we named Saturn after a god, and Saturn being rings isn't exactly a sort of vague thing. So, we're going to use rings a lot because rings are a thing, like a useful thing we have that humans invented.
Are you hearing that dog? You'd think because we're in a state-of-the-art government studio bunker defense station there wouldn't be dogs barking. But you're saying you don't hear it.
I will have to like report you if you're gonna exhibit like schizophrenic tendencies because of our line of work. So, maybe keep it down.
Okay, if you can't hear it, it's in my mind and we can continue. Now, there's 2 types of Saturn symbolism. Okay, tell me, you heard that.
I heard that one, yeah.
You heard that
How
one.
did a dog get in here?
It's not. Someone brought their dog to work.
Which is weird because the interns have also been missing for a week. So it's just us.
Now, as I was saying, obviously you have the rings as one type of Saturn symbolism. But a cube, especially a black cube, is also representative of Saturn. Because what is a hexagon? Picture a hexagon. If you're listening to this,
it's a cube at an angle.
Exactly.
Holy
It is
moly.
a 3D cube if you connect the lines and the center. Just picture that.
I'm glad we've decided to make one shape into another shape just by stretching your imagination. That's great.
Correct. Now think about the Kaaba. What is the Kaaba? It's in Mecca.
It's a big black cube.
Now the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is an esoteric branch of Jewish mysticism, and that's essentially saying cube, God, Kabbalah. So what we have here is we're already putting the pieces together. Now, it's not just a religious symbol like we have with the Kaaba.
It's also a sexual symbol.
It's no.
Oh.
It's as he points out, it's seen in the corporate world a lot. Now, I'm going to name some logos here, and I want you listeners to just picture them in your head.
Can I also picture them?
You can also picture them. The Nintendo GameCube.
It's a cube.
I'm getting this right from the article. It's hilarious. There's like a big collage of like logos, and right at the top is the GameCube. That's a very obvious one.
Right, that's...
While you were playing Melee as a child, you were in fact being indoctrinated into the cult of Saturn, and you had no idea. Think about that.
Do the next one. I'm closing my eyes. I'm imagining.
Microsoft.
Well, that one's a square.
That's a square. Well, a square is a cube, essentially.
Yeah, but I thought we were looking at a cube from an angle.
Just don't think too hard.
All right.
About this. Capital One.
It's like a sort of red swoosh arc.
It's a red swoosh. It's a ring. It's the ring of Saturn.
It's okay. It's not not a ring.
Okay. Same with Nike. Now you might be thinking, oh, Nike is already a reference to a different Greek god.
Yeah.
Wrong. That is a distraction. It is the swoosh is the ring of Saturn.
I'm trying really hard to decode in my mind how a swoosh equals ring.
The small part of the swoosh is like the part of the ring that's like disappearing into the distance.
But then you get but then when it swooshes over in front of Saturn, it has to go back around behind Saturn, which at least makes like an almost like chain like shape, but a little Nike swoosh does not work as a ring.
Can you picture the Bud Light logo?
No.
Bud Light is another swoosh. Now here's one. Now I didn't even know this had a logo, but this is really big. Like this is another good time to like pay attention. Like if you're listening to this while you're driving, probably just pull over
or just stop your car in the middle of the road.
Stop the car, put the hazards on. The symbol for Operation Warp Speed, which was Trump's big push to get the vaccine out as fast as possible. The logo is a cube with the coronavirus in it.
Oh my god.
This is a big one. This is a big like bomb drop.
Oh my god.
Like people I mean this is something that actually like freaked people out.
Hold on. Why are you trying to red pill people right now? This goes against the grain. I mean, you can't even deny the what's going on here anymore.
It's becoming too real.
We're in deep trouble right now.
And I'm not even done. Boeing is very Saturnian, if you can picture that. Internet Explorer, very Saturnian, with the E and then the ring around it. That's straight up Saturn.
That doesn't even exist anymore.
Well, correct. They've toned it down since, probably because it was too obvious. But it was really getting in there. Toyota, that's Saturn.
Yeah. Saturn, that's Saturn.
That's gonna be the next thing I point out. It's funny. It's funny that they like even include that. It's like at the big at like the Bilderberg meeting or whatever. They're all like designing their logos, and then some guy's just like, "What if we just did Saturn? Like, what if we just dropped all the secrets? And can I just name my company Saturn? Because I feel like all the good cryptic stuff is already taken. Like Bud Light has the swoosh thing, and then like Capital. Can I just literally be Saturn? People won't notice. People don't know anything about the hexagon, and they just said, "Yeah, that's fine. You can be the one guy who gets to not even have it be a secret."
Now, why if this is what I really want to know. For all these conspiracy theories, why do they have to have hidden symbolism? Why don't they just make it as inconspicuous as possible as to not have it like link to anything? You know, why would they even have any sort of, Saturnalian symbolism? Why do they have to do that?
Yeah, it's the same thing with like the Illuminati. It's like, oh, all these celebrities, they like cover one eye and there's like pyramids and everything. It's like, why would they be sending these secret messages?
Are they mocking us? Is there some sort of rule that they have to? Who's enforcing that?
Are they communicating with each other? I've never seen anyone like address this weird thing.
If you commit a murder, you're not going around being like,
well, actually people do. Like that's how a lot of people get caught.
Oh, they make murder jokes until they get caught.
Yeah, on like every like true crime thing, it's like had this person got caught because they told someone that they did it. That's like very common.
Hey, I've been noticing you've been buying a lot of murder related merchandise lately. You got a shirt that says "I murdered somebody." You've been carrying around a bloody knife for the past couple weeks. What's that about?
But you would hope that the elites who run the world would be a little bit more subtle and a little smarter than common criminals. Now, here's a few more that are my personal favorite Saturn references. Do you remember the original album cover for Donda?
It was Saturn.
Exactly. There was like the really like oversaturated like people that were kind of like levitating, and then in the sky there was Saturn. Or there was like a ball with like a line through it, which is clearly Saturn. So this would heavily imply that Kanye is in on all of this.
Do you think Kanye is an Anunnaki?
He could be an Anunnaki. He could be in the Saturn. He could be in the know with Saturn. Have we successfully mentioned Kanye in every episode?
Yes.
I believe that we have. I think this is probably a trend that will continue because he seems to be connected to everything. And then my personal favorite one, and this is something that people have actually like pointed out in a serious way, in one of the Seinfeld logos, because the show had a couple logos as over time, like the logo that would appear in like the bottom of the screen, usually outside of a establishing shot of the restaurant. One of these logos for a few seasons had Saturn in it. It like literally it had Saturn like off in the corner. It was like stars and like the sky, and then there was a little Saturn above Seinfeld, which would strongly imply that Jerry Seinfeld, creator of Seinfeld, is in on this.
The Jews are Anunnaki.
That's probably what some people definitely think, although that's not the mainstream Anunnaki conspiracy theory. But I do really like the idea of Jerry Seinfeld like knowing about all this and like maybe like bringing it up to a confused audience is like watching and like not laughing while he's on stage like, what is the deal with Saturn? It's the primeval sun and nobody's talking about it. And they're just kind of looking back at him like, what? Like, what is this?
You know his name is Jerome?
I want to believe that.
I want to believe.
But this is probably the biggest one. What does Novus Ordo Seclorum mean to you, Sauron?
Order of the Second Son.
No.
Damn, was I close?
It's Latin for New Order of the Ages. And it is written below the pyramid on dollar bills. And then at the top of the pyramid is, of course, the all-seeing eye, which is another Saturn reference. But the phrase comes from, it is referencing a poem, I'm not sure how to pronounce this actually, the Eclogues, I believe. It's a poem by Virgil. And the next line of the poem is, Eam reddit et Virgo, redunient Saturnia regna, which basically translates to, now justice returns, return of Saturn's reign. This is on every dollar. How suspicious is that?
All right, so is the Saturn that we're talking about here, is it the god or the planet? Because when did we name Saturn? I mean,
it's both.
Do other languages even call it Saturn? I don't think so, right?
Right. But I mean, we're talking about Western conspiracies here.
Okay. I mean, I feel like if it's going to be an interstellar conspiracy, it's got to line up internationally, you know?
That's kind of a good point. You know what, actually, it could be interesting to do an episode on, like, Chinese conspiracies that, like, Americans don't even know about.
Oh, like Tiananmen Square didn't happen?
Yeah. Like, I think that could be interesting. Like, other countries' conspiracies.
Did you know XXX Tentacion is actually the son of Xi Jinping? And he was murdered by Chinese assassins.
I would love for that to be a real conspiracy that people believe in.
I believe in it. I mean, if I get one, it's gonna be that one.
That could be the next episode. But I like. It's funny to me that, like, the founding fathers were like reading medieval poetry and felt the need to include it in, like, American symbolism. I cannot picture, like, modern politicians, like, being this well read, I guess. Like, somehow I doubt that Donald Trump is really reading a lot of Virgil.
They didn't have comics back then. Of course they're gonna read Virgil. They didn't have. They couldn't watch Static Shock reruns.
That was all they had, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Or they just thought it would be really funny. Maybe they predicted conspiracies.
I do. Well, there were conspiracies, like, back then. Like, I don't know if there were specifically conspiracies flying around, like, while the founding fathers were around, but during, like, I remember seeing something about, like, during the Civil War, there were a lot of conspiracy theories about, like, oh, like, the government is secretly going to do this, or, like, oh, the South, like, wants to actually do this. So conspiracy theories have absolutely always been, like, part of America.
It's in our blood.
Yeah, it really is. So, I mean, you can probably see where this is going. The elites are all in a cult worshiping Saturn, worshiping the Black Cube, worshiping Saturn, essentially. Satan. Why do you think they sound so similar?
Probably because of the SAT at the beginning.
Probably no, no. It's because they're the same entity. Satan has been Saturn all along.
Are we talking about the planet, like the planet Saturn, though?
Yes, it's both. It's both.
But it's just a planet. What does this have to do with the god Saturn? Nothing.
Well, it's more about Satan. Now here's the big plan. Here's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
This is if you listened to Alex Jones's episodes on the Joe Rogan Experience, or if you're at all familiar with the previous podcast we used to run, then you've heard this before. I'm not trying to like sound dramatic and gravelly. My throat is just a little sore from talking for half an hour. But listen to me.
Listen here.
Joker. Why is it a hexagon, Joker? No, this is this is serious. You guys need to pay attention.
He doesn't have much time left. Listen.
What these people say is the big plan is the Hadron Collider. The CERN's Hadron Collider.
It's a big ring.
Which, exactly, it's a big ring. It even kind of looks like a hexagon. That is going to be the portal that connects Earth to the poles of Saturn. And the interdimensional demons or aliens or whoever that created Saturn,
the Anunnaki,
and us probably, the Anunnaki, they will be released and they will enter Earth and probably, I don't know, bang people or whatever, and it's going to get really crazy. And that's kind of the end game of all of this.
I mean, I don't have a girlfriend. I'd be chill with the Anunnaki GF. That'd be sick.
A 7 foot tall, solid black Enderman GF.
I've seen some art out there. All right.
So you're down with like this being the big end game for humanity?
Why not? That doesn't sound so bad. They're advanced civilization with black magic and portals on Saturn. That's cool.
You've totally fallen under the spell of the elites.
I don't know why people are so scared about like some like higher power ruling us. Like if AI sort of advances and like it becomes so advanced that it rules over us, why is that a problem? That's cool. It's a computer. It's a robot. Robots are cool. Did you guys not learn this?
Well, think about this. I can't remember who said this. Some space nerd. But basically, the classic example here is like when the Europeans, who had very advanced technology for the time, when they stumbled upon the New World, it did not go so well for the less advanced race, which would be us in these AI or ALMAO scenarios.
That's some roadside picnic propaganda, and you know it. You know it's gonna be fine.
Well, I don't think there's any aliens at all. So I'm not someone who worries about this.
Well, if there is, I trust them to have a nice vaccine prepared for us.
You're just like, welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard. Please, if you're gonna give me some sort of space disease, I would please ask that you let me have a whirl in one of your UFOs real quick before I die. Give me some fun times to remember.
But there's one final sort of Saturn conspiracy which goes beyond this, and that is David Icke's Saturn theories. Do you know who David Icke is at all?
I haven't read his dossier, but sure, go ahead.
So David Icke, if you're into conspiracies at all, you've heard of this guy. But David Icke used to be a soccer player in the UK. And then he retired from soccer to become the crazy conspiracy guy. Like, he's very influential. He is the guy who pushed the idea that the elites are reptiles. Not in a metaphorical sense, that they're like ghoulish capitalists or whatever, but that they are literally lizard people.
Reptilians.
That they are literal reptilians.
The evil version of the ones that are in Agartha. Those are the chill ones.
Yeah. Not chill Agarthians. They're like evil. And they wear masks. And they're the queen.
Skin masks.
And they're Bill Gates. And what have you.
And me.
He's basically the reason that idea is known and out there. Now, he also said, and this is where the moon comes in. He also said that we are living right now in a Saturn moon matrix, where Saturn sends these radio signals that we heard earlier. Saturn beams out these signals. They are of alien origin, interdimensional origin, satanic origin, And then the moon picks up these signals and beams them down onto Earth, trapping us in this matrix. Now, in the movie The Matrix, you get out of the matrix, you meet Morpheus, and you slide down the tube with the goo in it, and then Trinity's there, and like people are wearing sunglasses inside, and it's like green tinted, and it's really cool, and people are doing gun fu and doing backflips. But in real life, if you want to get out of the matrix, according to David Icke, what you need to do is buy his books and attend his like speaking tours, and then he's like our Morpheus, and he can explain to you how to get out of the matrix. He's also extremely anti-Semitic. That probably goes without saying. What with everything else I've just said about him, but that's probably worth throwing in there as well.
What does actually breaking out of the matrix? What does that mean for you? What happens after you break out? Where are you? Where did you end up?
I'm not entirely sure. Like I don't think that like David Icke thinks that you'll literally like see things differently. Like I don't think you'll literally see a different world. I think it's just like becoming woke, I guess. Like you'll be able to notice the reptile people in the like YouTube videos or whatever. I don't know how exactly it works. But I thought that's pretty much everything I have to say about Saturn. But I thought we could end. It's been a very dark episode with the Matrix and Saturn the car company and Saturn the planet and Saturn the god. So I thought it would be nice if we could wrap up with a song I found that is about the Saturn conspiracy.
All right.
Are you ready for this?
Sure.
This song is by a band called Aura Blaze, which is where my code name comes from. And it is called No Soul That Couldn't Be Sold in Hollywood.
Kind of wordy, but
if you want to look it up. And don't tell me we can't put this in because of copyright, because there's a 0% chance that Aura Blaze is coming after us.
Famous last words.
What if we get in a huge legal battle with this like conspiracy band?
Just go ahead and play it.
This is about a minute in, this is where it references our topic.
What dreams behold when all that gold comes in? What must be killed to cultivate that life of leisure? Dressed in Saturnian red. There's no soul that couldn't be sold in Hollywood. The ones you love all be drugged up for their own good. Nary a spirit be spared in Hollywood. So why won't you come out, say it?
You get the idea.
That was terrible.
That was the whole song is pretty much more of that.
It was like a David Bowie cover band.
It does kind of sound like that, weirdly enough.
Let me tell you about one last thing about Saturn. Something you left out was that Saturn has a lot of moons, all right? And there are theories about the moons, because some of the moons are a little weird, all right? And on one moon, Tethys, there are pictures from NASA, which kind of show ridges on Tethys. I think it's on Tethys or Iapetus. I don't remember. Maybe both. But they have sort of like ridges and like weird geographical structures, which kind of make it look like a damn Death Star. Like it's got like a seam and like a big circle that makes it look like a Death Star. And yeah, it's kind of weird.
So that could be other even more aliens hanging out at Saturn.
Maybe they just liked Star Wars. Maybe they were just big fans and they're like, and that translates to let's make a Death Star.
They're like, we're gonna do that. That's a great idea.
That's freaking, man. These humans, they are not equal to us. They are lesser beings. But damn, episode 4, New Hope.
These humans who we genetically engineered to like mine gold for us on our prison planet, they're making good movies.
Now Prison Planet Is that an Anunnaki thing? Is that a belief?
Well, that was it is like an Anunnaki thing, and it was also that was like Alex Jones's like old website. It was called Prison Planet.
I see. Well, I think we might have to get into that on another episode because I think that's a whole nother can of worms.
We could do a whole Anunnaki episode. I mean, it's kind of old news, you know, but we could do that.
I know maybe you got burned out by space on this one, but I feel like space has so many theories for us that we can't just turn our backs to it.
You can do the next space episode.
What was that song called again?
For all you listeners out there who want to listen to it, it's called No Soul That Couldn't Be Sold in Hollywood.
Exactly. And your soul is it's toast, buddy.
It is kind of a wordy title.
It's a weird title too.
I'm going to play more of it.
Please please don't.
But you see a lot of music these days, you know, the kids are talking about lean and hoes and you know, the gang banging. But this is a song with a message, a real message.
They don't even say the N-word one time.
Actually, they do a lot at the end.
Oh.
No, just kidding. But this is a good. They're really bringing back real music, and I would like to interview Aura Blaze on this show.
Well, we can get one of our interns right on that as soon as they're not disappeared.
It's weird, right? And then the last conversation I had with our boss, he was like, he was kind of like looking away, and then he just like laughed and he like left.
I'm scared.
Like I was trying to talk to him about like, oh, like Gurren Lagann, like we could do like a Gurren Lagann episode and stuff, and then like he like walked out. It's kind of weird. We don't know what the next episode will be about just yet, but whatever it is, that'll be out next Monday. We have here's big announcements before we wrap up here. This is big. Coming soon. We're gonna change the name of the Twitter account so that it will no longer just be the last podcast. So we will have a Twitter account.
Also coming to a theater near you, we're going to have an official email, which I know that all of you are very excited to use and send stuff to us, whether that be new information or ideas, or maybe you just want to vent. Maybe you just want to press the caps lock key on your keyboard and just go at it. Anything's good. We'll have more info for you next episode.
So yeah, we got big things happening. An email account will be dropping soon. You have that to look forward to. And we're going to get big guests. This is going to be a live tour as well.
We got Alex Jones coming on, former President Bill Clinton, former President Barack Obama, former President Donald Trump, of course.
All that and more. Stay tuned.